Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Laughter for All podcast. I am Comedian Nazareth. Thank you for joining me in this Tuesday night here in Southern California. So, uh, I have a great guest, comedian, author, advocate. You're going to learn a lot. So, if you know anyone who have a child that has special needs, or autism and all that, you need to go either text him or call him and have him watch us. All right? We will see you. Okay, here we go.
Welcome to Laughter for All. It's the podcast with Comedian Nazareth.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Laughter for All podcast. I am Comedian Nazareth. Uh, Tuesday night, it is probably 60 some degrees here in Southern California. We are about, the fires are almost done. And by 6 o'clock today, the wind slowed down dramatically. So that is done. But that doesn't mean anything because the people are still without homes. And I have a friend, he's a comedian who lost his house completely. And I had to talk, I was talking to him this morning, and he goes, even trying to buy a house now or rebuild a house or trying to find a place, it's getting very difficult. It's because there's a lot of people trying to do the same exact thing. And thank God for all these ministries and people and churches and philanthropists who just jumped in and helping people with clothes, with food, with immediate supplies. So praise God for that. Tomorrow I'm going to be in Beverly Hills at the Jazz Club, and I was supposed to perform for an event for the Dream Center, which is, they help thousands of people in Los Angeles, people from homeless people to people in sex trafficking to people trying to recover from drugs and alcohol. Just a great ministry. And but I am still going, but I'm not performing just because the feeling is, it's too soon to laugh. I don't know. I'm kind of I don't know. What do you think, guys? I'm confused about it. I'm in the middle of this. It's like so people are trying to raise, so what we're gonna do tomorrow is we're gonna raise money for the Dream Center to be able to continue to help the victims of the fires in Los Angeles. So that part is there. And then Thursday I fly to Houston, Texas, which is gonna. I heard from American Airlines today that the airports are shut down today in Houston, both of them, Lobby and George Bush, but they should open tomorrow. And by Thursday, I should be fine. Keep that in prayer. I'm doing a big men's event on Friday in Houston. Um, and then Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, I will be in Santa Barbara. And then you look at my website for February. All these Valentine events are coming up. Yeah, enough of that. I have a friend I met a few years ago in at the Christian Comedy Association conference that we have, and we didn't stay in touch. I don't know why. My bad. But she is a very impactful comedian. She's a comedian. She's an author. She's an advocate for families. And Karen Mayer Cunningham. She could they call her the special education boss, special education advocate. She's been advocating on behalf of children for over 25 years. She is passionate about training, educating, and empowering everyone that sits at the 504 IEP, which is the Individualized Education Program. So please welcome my friend, Karen Mayer Cunningham. Hello, Karen.
Hello, how are you, Nazareth?
Great. Thank you for being here on the show. And I wanted to tell people that they can chat with us. If they have any questions, they can ask all the questions that they need. So let's start with this. We met at the CCA a few years ago, and let's talk to you as a comedian first, because you wear so many hats with this beautiful hair. It's gonna mess up this.
Yeah.
I heard you read. By the way, Karen was on Dry Bar. She had a Dry Bar special, and she talks about the big Texan hair. So how did you feel about doing that? The Dry Bar.
So I got into Dry Bar. I shot it March of 2019.
Mm,
And as you know, maybe yours was faster. There's a little bit of a process. And then the great COVID came, and I didn't know if it was ever going to come out. But then it got released in the fall of 21. So, I mean, I thought it was a great opportunity. It was a great blessing, obviously, great production.
mhm.
Did it make me an international Galactica star? Not yet, but it's certainly a great product. I love being here.
Was that the goal? A galactic star?
No, I mean, I'm already a galactic star, just not everybody knows it yet. So,
I love that. See, that's what it. See, that's where the not the problem. That's where so many entertainers and artists are in. There's
yeah,
a there's ones who believe that they are in their own mind, in their own confidence,
yeah,
that they are already stars,
yeah,
and the world just needs to know about it.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
there's the
Yeah,
other artists, and a lot of comedians also fall in that, is we're insecure enough that we believe unless we get to become those stars, we're still
yeah.
not good enough. How
Yeah,
did
and that's a comedy is a tough road, right? I lived in Los Angeles when I was very young and still had a thyroid in the 80s. At the end of 1989 was when I got my comedy start at a little club in Santa Monica called At My Place. And I
uh,
remember it's a dinner house and they would turn it twice. So they would have a band and then, a singer would come in. And I remember I begged and begged the manager, please let me do some stand up. I'm so amazing. And he's like, okay, okay, okay. And he said, I'll give you 5 minutes. I'm like, ugh, I mean, that's not going to be enough time at all. Right.
right,
And I remember I got up there and it was 93 seconds. And I thought, if God will get me off the stage, I will never do this again because, being the class clown and being funny with people is low hanging fruit. Right. But it's when it's just you and that microphone, it was the longest 93 seconds of my life. But I really, honed my craft. It's been 36 years. I'm an overnight success, but oh, what a night it was. And just the gift that God gives us to bring joy to people is, that to walk in the gifting that God's given you, that you're the superstar, right? And
right.
you talked about earlier, is it too soon to laugh? We need to laugh. I remember when you said that. I had a show the Saturday after 9/11. I had a
Mm.
show the Saturday after 9/11, and people, it says in Hebrews that Jesus had more joy than all of his followers. Without joy, that's my theme, joy for the journey. It's a long road. And if we can't meet each other in our tears and the joy, then this life at times would become unbearable. So it's never too early to laugh. We need that.
Right. And you know what? A few months after you did that event, I started my first comedy night in early for April 1990 at the LA Cabaret, and they gave me 3 minutes. That was the longest year of my life.
I
I was
know.
waiting for the light. I was wait.
Okay.
They were
Where's the
laughing,
light?
but
Yeah.
they were laughing, but I was like shaking and all that, and it worked.
Yeah.
It worked, and we're still in it, and so that means we did well. So when you did so you spent 4 years in L.A. and Los Angeles just
Ugh.
pursuing comedy.
No, I was a prodigal. Prodigal.
You're a
I was.
prodigal, okay.
Oh yeah, I was raised by Joan Crawford and Buford Pusser, and they didn't know anything. So I went off to Los Angeles with my fiance, who ended up not being a really good guy. And then I was there, and I had this little thing called Pride. I know you've never heard of it. And I was like, I will just stay here. I will walk in Canoga Park to the Sizzler's Grill, and then at night in this in Encino at the Cheesecake Factory, which means I'm really good at marrying ketchup and salt and pepper. And I got to shoot a pilot for Kirk Cameron's family, Barbara Cameron. I waited on them. And you get a little crusty, you get a little snarky as a comedian. And it was Kirk Cameron's mother. Obviously, I didn't know who she was, Barbara Cameron. And she's like, "You're really funny." I said, "I know, you need to really order." She's like, I was like, that really wasn't a good intro. And I got to shoot a pilot for them. But I mean, you know this all too well. What a competitive place And as
Mhm.
somebody that grew up Southern Baptist, the Frozen Chosen in Texas, it was just a hard place to live because there's either people that are there nomadic, right? Because they're coming in to chase their dream that you
Yeah.
become friends with and then they leave, right? And Christianity is not the number one conversation in Los Angeles. And it was just everything was so competitive. We had matching outfits and we had matching Chanel lipstick and little tiny white pants that we wore at the Cheesecake Factory. And even when something good happened to you, you couldn't share it because nobody's happy for you, right?
Right.
Everybody's on the make, and everything's a deal. And I'm just thank God I'm not wired that way. I love people. I'm obsessed with people. And people always go, "Where do you get your comedy?" I'm like, "You find folks, right?" So, but you really do. I think the phrase "people sell their soul" is not a reach. And I just wanted to get back home. As much as I didn't think home was so great, I just wanted to be home. I didn't want to work a double shift on Christmas. I wanted to go home. And so I
Right.
remember I was walking by the bread station and God was like, ding, you can go home now. And I called my parents and I said I wanted to come home. And I took my 4 U-Haul boxes and I shipped them back to Austin, Texas. And I started again.
Is that where you're from? From Austin,
Yeah, I'm
Texas?
from Austin. And so wonderful place to grow up. And I remarried a few years ago, and state law is you have to move in with your husband. So it was a
Yeah.
great, yeah.
Oh,
So,
I'm glad I
so
don't live there.
yeah. So I live in Houston now, but Texas is a wonderful place.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you did, so you were in LA and they moved back to, and in, let's see, you started, you got married, and what got you into what you do now, which is, special education boss, helping people with children with special needs.
Yeah, so this wasn't my plan. My plan was to be popular, Nazareth, and people to adore me, clap when I came in a room, and wave when I left. And I told God, I want to be popular. And He said, "Well, I'd prefer you be effective." I was like, "No, no, really, really, I was going for popular." And so I always say that in my greatest pain, God birthed my biggest ministry. And so I had a perfect son because that's what happens when you get it together. I married the church guy. Don't recommend that. And he was sitting on the premises instead of standing on the promises. But we women, we like a project. And so I had 2 stepdaughters, and we had my son James, and everything was perfect. He got a 9 on his APGAR. I don't know what that means, and everything was perfect. And then at 18 months, something terrible happened. We'd gotten his vaccines, and he had a reaction to them and started slamming his head into the wall. Very, very unbelievable situation. Lost all of his language, and our whole world fell apart. And he became our whole world. And when you live with a child or an adult that is disabled or needs your care, it becomes your whole world. And this was in the 90s. This is in the mid 90s. And as a comedian, he used to eat the sheetrock, he used to eat the carpet. And of course, I made comedy out of it. And I just desperately wanted some help. And so my friend said, if you're 3 years old in Texas and you're speech delayed, you can go public school. I was like, perfect. So I'm going to send him to school. That's what teachers do. They fix stuff, and I sent him across the street. And the teacher, a few weeks after he got there, had called Child Protective Services on us, which I could not work into a comedy routine. And so the lady, knocks on our door. She's like, are you doing something with him? I'm like, we're Baptists. We're not doing anything except having a conversation. Right. And it was like, here I am trying to get my child help in America at a public school, and the whole world comes crashing down. And so, people have compassion for what they walk through. I didn't have compassion for, you know, divorce. I got divorced. I didn't have compassion for, or even really know about children with disabilities. I grew up in such a small town, and just ignorance, right? Biases. And in my life, I'd always been able to control things with control, manipulation, or a check.
Can
And
I stop you for 1 second? Because I have
yeah,
a couple questions what you shared already, and I love you opening your heart for that and being
yeah,
completely transparent. Now, do you think the what do you call it, the injections or the
absolutely.
vaccines?
100,000 million percent. There's no doubt. And I don't care what anybody else on the planet says. My child was talking just like his mother. I was highlighting his hair. He was just a little Karen, right? And literally his whole world. The word autism literally means selfishness, autoism. So it's a hyper going inside of yourself.
Huh. I did
So
not know
that is
that.
what the word means, auto, into yourself, which is the
Oh.
opposite of love, right? It's opposite of connection. And so, you know, I and I can't tell you how many people that I know that's exactly what happened. Like your
And at
child,
age
oh,
what? What age was he
18
when
months.
so
And we're the
after
only
how long after taking the vaccine did he
that day,
turn?
that day,
A decade?
that day, that
That
day,
day.
that
That day
day.
he
And
took the
we're still,
vaccine.
yeah. So Nazareth, you and I are going on a mission trip to India and we get vaccines. We have enough body mass if we have a reaction to absorb them. They're 30 pounds. They don't, it does become neurological. It does become emotional. It does become spiritual. And that's a podcast for another day. But of course, they don't have what it takes to fight it off. And we're the only country that gives our kids 800,000 vaccines. They don't do that in other countries. And but anyway, so
Okay.
I believe in the blessing of medicine. I just know now to pray against any curse before anybody gets a shot in our family. So I still, I don't deny the thing. I just deny it's right. And so, being in the church, being the frozen chosen Southern Baptist, I knew I was going to heaven, but I didn't think people really got heaven here. All the Christians I know were big whiners, whiners, and whiners, or they were broke and whining, right? I wanted to be at the country club, having a bourbon and Coke, go to church, do your hard time, drop in your check where everybody can see it, and volunteer once in a while. I thought that was Christianity on steroids, right? I didn't know that people actually got their kingdom here. And so
I
in
love
the
that. Wait,
gravity,
whoa, whoa, whoa! This is too good. You
oh,
you're throwing diamonds at me, and you expect me just to let it fly by me. No, I'm not. I'm stopping you. You are right in that sense. In that, you know, I when I first came to Christ, I was in a Southern Baptist church, and I'm not putting down anybody. There's a lot of
yeah,
great Christians, great churches and stuff. But you're right. When it becomes like a way of life, this is
yeah.
just a way of life. It never touched your heart. And so were people criticizing you because you have a child who is now having
Yeah, so
autism?
so my husband and I at the time, he was a music director, and so I pretended that I could sing. That's how you marry the music director, in case ladies want to know. And so we were traveling doing interim music ministry, and when you start to live in your own chaos, it's normal for you, right? And
Right.
I remember he ate a foam, what were those foam things we put our Coke can in?
Yeah.
A koozie, yeah. And it
Right.
was lime green from Schlotzsky's, and he'd eaten it all one morning. He ate everything. He ate everything. It wasn't food. And so we're doing a sound check at the first church, the begotten church, the only church. And so we're doing a sound check, and this girl comes running in. She's like, James has thrown up green lime stuff everywhere. I was like, uh-huh. I mean, oh no, let me come get it, right? Because that became our chaos, right? We had
Yeah.
holes in the sheetrock. He pulled up the carpet. It just, when these things happen, God doesn't ask you, would you like to take this card? He just gives you that card. And then he sits back with his feet up on the desk eating an apple to see if you were listening when he was teaching. Because he'll let you take that pop quiz again. And I was not listening. I was busy talking. And I had a relationship with church. I had zero relationship with God. And so I
Mm.
don't think that's unusual, right? And in the gravity of this most unbearable pain, he got my full attention and he said, "Do I have your full attention?" I was like, "Yes, sir." And I said, remember, we took him in for when he's 2.5, and the lady said, "Well, he's classically autistic. He has 15 of the 16 markers. He'll never have friends. He'll never graduate high school. He won't play with other kids. You'll have to put him in a home. Do you want a copy of this report?" I was like, "Well, I certainly don't
Wow.
want a hug from you, ma'am." And I remember getting in the car with this new fortitude. And I thought, this is how comedians think. I was like, between me, Oprah, and God, we are going to figure this out. And he was 2.5 then. And my head became as a flint that if there's help for this child, I promise you, if there's breath in my body, I will find it. And I thought it was going to be on Google, and I thought it was going to be on, YouTube or on Dateline. I didn't know it was going to be in a transparent relationship with an all-loving, healing, delivering God. And so,
Okay. Now, when you going through this, and your husband was the worship leader, okay, and you guys are no longer together, right?
oh no, we're together.
Oh, you're together. We're together.
Oh yeah.
You're together. And how did he handle this?
Oh, he
Because
didn't.
it's,
He he always wanted, so I was like, this is going to be great. You play the piano. I'll be the preacher. We'll get on the road. He was like, I'm not really interested in that. He wanted to be the superstar, right? And I thought, what a great union. And, for music ministers' wives or wives, when you have the interview, they're like, what does she do? Oh, you don't want to know what she does, right? And he was embarrassed. And and I find as I work with families all over the nation, I do about 500 special needs meeting in a year because I like to grind my teeth. That there's a lot of shame in families with disabilities, but there's a larger version of shame that rests on the man. Like somehow they
Oh,
could have done,
oh.
especially if it's a son, right? And
Oh,
so,
wait. This is too powerful. This is true. This There's more shame that falls on the father of a
yeah,
son who have
absolutely.
special needs than on the mother. Because
Hmm.
the mom is within her compassion and love, she's trying to figure how she can, take care of that child. But the dad is thinking more, this is reflection. Any dad or just a dad who wants to become famous?
I think for men, there is, men are doers and fixers and hunters and handlers. And this is not something you get to handle. And especially if it isn't an onset disability, if you have a child with Down syndrome or maybe cerebral palsy, then from the day that they get here on this earth that they have challenges, right? But when you have onset seizures or onset a brain injury or onset autism or ADHD, I mean, we are in 2025, and sometimes I think we're in 1925. The way people talk in meetings, he needs to hunker down. If he was my kid, I remember I had a woman come to my house who was very powerful, and she was the one that first introduced me to the Holy Spirit.
Uh-huh.
And in her lovely Christianese, and we all have it, right?
Of
She
course.
said, remember, my daughter was born, and James was about 2.5 at that point, and he was a wreck. I was a wreck. I was drinking a large bottle of white Zinfandel every day because I'm tall and German, and it's a fruit. So I feel
It's a
like that's
fruit. It's a fruit.
it's a fruit. You go to Sonic, you empty your 44 ounce, and you fill it back up, and you have a breath mint.
Yeah.
And she said, if you let me take him home for the weekend, I can fix that. And you know what? She meant that because people cannot stand to be uncomfortable. And having
Mm.
a child with a disability makes people uncomfortable
Right.
because they want it to stop. And it's a beautiful little blonde boy with blue eyes who's not in a wheelchair. He's not using a white cane. He's not have a physical disability. And we're just, we see somebody and a ticker tape full of our biases run down, right? We just
Right.
do. All of us do. And the shame that comes with that from other people. If I had a child in a wheelchair, people would smile at me in the grocery store, right? People were like, like I've ruined their whole life. And I love my son, but I didn't want him to be healed. I just wanted it to be over. I just wanted out. I'd never come up against anything in my life that I could not overcome and control. And I was just devastated. And we were introduced to a ministry, and she said, God heals. I was like, I know, but that was a while back. I mean, it was a really good book. It's a number one seller, but that was a long time ago. And they didn't even have curling irons back then. And she introduced me to a love and a knowledge of the Bible, which I thought it was a book that people were reading to correct us. I didn't know it was a love note from our Father that He has
Amen.
everything that we've ever needed.
Amen. Amen.
And and it's a very vivid story, and I've taken a lot of heat for it. And people get livid. Mostly the people that get livid are the Christians. But it
Mm.
says in Mark 5 that a man came to him, a child that was tortured, and my son was tortured. He was
Mm.
tortured. And when you watch a child with autism, they're robbed of their language, they're robbed of relationships with children, and they're robbed of relationships with adults. And that's the work of the enemy.
Mm.
That is the plan of the enemy, to destroy and divide and isolate. And she said, the head of the ministry, Gospel Revelation Ministry, she said, I believe that we could take James through deliverance for autism. I said, oh, what a nice lady. They don't do that. I mean, leprosy, we can do leprosy, raise the dead. But I'm so sorry. They didn't even know about it then. I mean, this is a new disability, but thank you, nice church lady. I appreciate it. And she went back to her house in Dallas, and I went with my big knowledge of the Bible. And they called us about 6 months later, and she said she'd been praying for us. And I thought, that's so weird. because that's just
Mm.
something you say to people in the parking lot on your way to Chili's. We're
Right.
praying for you, praying for you. And people, we don't mean that. What a sloppy thing. What a reckless thing for us to say. And I've done it a million times. And she said, it's time to pray for James. And I was horrified because you know what? What if this doesn't work? And so
Mm.
we took him in February 1999, and we took him into a church. And as soon as I saw her, I just started crying. She goes, "What are you?" She was very delicate, like I am. "What are you crying for?" And I was like, "I don't think this is going to work." She goes, "Well, I didn't ask you."
That's the one that will tell you I've been praying for 6 months for your
Yeah,
son.
I said, "I
Okay.
don't think it's going to work." She goes, I don't care what you think. God said he's going to be healed, and it doesn't. God's blessing has nothing to do with my thinking. Thank
Right.
goodness, right?
Right.
Like he didn't. You didn't get up this morning and turn your lungs on. You didn't get up this morning and put the galaxy in place, right? And so the team prayed for him and prayed that the first spirit would go in Jesus' name. And my son reached his hand out and screamed, "Come back! Come back! Come back! Come back! Come back!" And that's what happened. And then he just relaxed. And he had been wailing and hit himself, and he would chew his fingers till he bled. And from that day, there was a relief, and he was delivered. We had 4 more sessions. It's just prayer. It's nothing. There's no, there's no bag of snakes, floating tables, and dry
Mm.
ice. That's an additional charge. It's just prayer, just regular, just like we just stand on the word. We align with the promise. See, we're so busy aligning with the problem that God can't get in there. You're so busy saying, "I have cancer." I don't. I might say I've been diagnosed with cancer, but I'm being healed in this very moment. We align with the lie and wonder why we don't live in the blessing because
Mm.
you said so, right? So we call it restoration. So deliverance, discipleship, and development. The deliverance is just prayer. It takes a few minutes. You come, you get it, you're delivered. It's the discipleship and development that people aren't interested in. That growing up, that pruning, that maturing. And but I told God, I said, if you heal him, I will covet it with you forever, and I will give you my whole life.
Mm.
And my son is completely healed and delivered. He's a grown man now. He's 30 years old. He's a professional bowler on the PBA Southwest Regional Tour. And
Wow.
I will forever be grateful for an all loving, all sovereign, all knowing God who stopped the world to save my little boy. And I am the biggest mouth on the earth. And I will always go and tell people the good news. If they like it, great. If they don't like it, still not my business.
What is okay? Let me 2 quick things, and because this is good stuff and heavy stuff, and it helps a lot of people. Now, if so, you feel that there was a demonic thing, or was it the vaccine? What was the
So yes. I'll unpack this for you a little bit. So I mean, if we're going to be controversial, let's be controversial. So, if you look up vaccines, if you Google vaccines,
uh,
vaccines are grown on tissue. And most of the tissue that's given by NIH is aborted fetuses. That's the curse
oh
of murder.
oh oh
That's the
okay,
curse
yeah,
of murder.
right.
So, I remember I went and spoke for a lady in Seattle for a bunch of Catholic priests, if you can imagine that. And so the National Institute of Health, if you're a doctor and you're a researcher and you want product, you have to take these aborted fetuses, which a lot of people take issue with based on their faith and their beliefs. So you grow a vaccine on an aborted fetus, which is the curse of murder, whether we like it or not. That's what it is. And then we inject it in somebody's bloodstream. So it's in you. It's not
Mm.
on you. It's in you. Do I believe in vaccines? Yes. Do I still get vaccines? Yes, because I understand the power of life and death is in our tongue. So if when my daughter got vaccines to go to Bible college, we still got the vaccines, and I just said, "Hey, can I pray over those before you start?" And the nurse
Mm.
is like this, "Go ahead." And I just said, "Father, I just thank you for these vaccines and the healing and health and the wisdom in them, and we break any curse in Jesus' name." That's it. Go ahead.
Now, what is the attack you get when you say the God of miracles, the healer, Jesus Christ, healed my son by prayer, not by crazy stuff. But I prayed when we believed and we stood on the promises, and my
Mhm.
son was healed. What attack do you get from Christians about that?
Well, how dare I say that? Autism is a blessing. Mm, and I understand the phrase, my child is a blessing. My child's suffering was not God doesn't, I don't look at my children and my grandchildren and go, you know what, my grandchild's having a good day. How about I just give him a little, cancer? That's not what God does, right? And so if I hadn't walked this, I would have felt the same way. People don't know about a powerful healing God. We all know that if Aunt Myrtle has cancer, whatever faith we are, any faith, we are all praying, right? They come
Right.
out, the doctor says, we open it up, there's no cancer. Everybody's fine with that because that's been known for a while, right? But
Right.
autism in the 70s was 1 in 15,000, and it was almost always through incest. And now it's 1 in 37 births. So let's just do the math, and it's males and all the things, right? And so had I
Oh, it's
not,
mostly males who get autism.
almost always, yeah,
Okay, why is that?
that's a whole nother podcast. Because I mean that's the seed of the family. Without a male, you can't seed a family, can you?
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay.
Oh, just there's that, right?
Yeah.
And so not only does it mean selfishness, so it's the characteristics of autism set that child up for rejection from everybody else on the planet. The characteristics of it, right? So there's oppression, depression, obsession, and possession. I've never met anybody that was possessed, but they were oppressed, they were depressed, they were obsessed, and James, his behaviors were obsessive. Kids that have autism have obsessive behaviors. I don't know that I've ever met anybody that was possessed, but we need to know those 4 categories. And it's about standing on the word and standing. I was fighting for his life. He would have been an institution. I was fighting for his life, and nobody was fighting with me. And in that, you know this when you're in ministry, God, weans you out. When he was in the garden that night, he went to the garden to be alone. And whether it's ministry or music or joy or special education advocacy, when you're doing the thing that God calls you to do, a lot of it's alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he
Mm-hmm.
has to separate that. It's not about, oh, here's Karen. If I didn't walk through this, I would never do what I do now. Would never do that. I would have been, in my salon in a resort on Lake Travis, having a bourbon and Coke, talking about the people on the prayer list. I
What
would have.
happened to the white infidel?
You got to level up. You got to level up. And yeah.
Let
So
me ask you this.
yeah.
You're the expert to ask. Do you think our public school system knows how to deal with people with special needs?
I do. I really, really do. There's not a better setting than public school for kids with disabilities when we get it right. And so my mission statement is when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. So what I do now is I help get that paperwork right. And people that love and serve kids with differences, I just, God bless them. But we do have really amazing teachers, really amazing therapists, really amazing service providers.
So, what advice do you have for a parent or a family with a child with autism, or a son with autism, or a teenager with autism? What kind of advice do you have for
Yeah,
them?
so I mean, my space is that I serve them in an educational setting, right? I serve families that have a child with a disability, any disability between the ages of 3 and 22 in a public school that's federally funded. And so what I know is that when we get this product right, is that it changes their outcomes, right? When I have the chance to go in and get this paperwork right, it gives families hope, but more importantly, it gives a child a future, right? And so, you know, we have to deliver that with efficacy. And to go into a special education meeting without representation is like you and I going into court, right? I say that, you owe me $10,000 for that fishing boat that I sold you in Reseda and you never paid me. Well, you walk in with an attorney, that's fine. I walk in without an attorney, that's fine. It's allowed. But the judge has no obligation to lean over the bench and go, Karen, you should have filed an A-21 on Nazareth with 30 days notice. And so
Mhm.
when you go into um, a federal setting, a setting where I'm going to walk in with you and I'm asking them to spend money that was spent July 1st, 2024 at the school district, there's no more money. So I
Mm.
have to use my gift of persuasion, not manipulation. I think we call that evangelism,
There's a-
to see my position and why that investment would be valued. And so kids with disabilities, I say that they often don't get services because we're not a school board meeting photo op. We're
Mm.
not. My son graduated high school and reads at a sixth grade level. That's not a photo op, right? I had three kids, one child in special ed and two children that were National Honor Society students, and they all gave me the same amount of gray hair. And we, by nature, are competitive and comparers and competers. It's terrible. We all do it, right? You
Mm.
know, and every human has the same equitable value on this earth, and only special ed in America is federally funded. I'm working right now with the minister of Jordan to go and train for them, and I get to train everywhere. And I'm a unique ball of hot mess. But
Mm.
you know what I am? I'm authentic. And parents just need somebody to come alongside them and say, I hear you, I see you. And it's okay that there's stuff all over the floor. It's okay that he ate the sheetrock. It's okay that Child Protective Services have come. You're doing a great job. You're a great mama. You're a great dad. And thank you so much. And your child is RA. Your child is ridiculously amazing. And the fact that I get to walk alongside of families that God broke my heart and like took everything that I had written down on my little vision board, and he's like, we won't be doing that, and gave me this mouthpiece to serve the earth is just unbelievable.
That is amazing. That is amazing. And I watched your TikTok, and you have 500, over half a million followers and all that. Now, you mentioned something before the podcast. We're talking about like you help people how to have more followers and how
Yeah,
to get. Can you give us some, because this is very
yeah.
interesting for
I
people
don't know if
right
I can share all of this greatness in
now. No,
one
I
night,
mean,
Nazareth, but it's a Tuesday. Let's do it. So God, when the pandemic came,
uh-huh.
March 13th, 2020, and they said, by the way, we're turning the world off and schools are closed. I was like, I'm unemployed. So here I have all these years. I drive to schools, meet you in the parking lot, and go inside of a school. Go. I was like, what? And my boys went to the Ace Hardware and they got me an Ethernet cord. I'm like, that looks like that's witchcraft. And I said, what is that? I'm like, I've got an 8-track tape player here. What are y'all doing? And they're like, this makes the interweb go into your computer. I'm like, I don't know if that's legal. And out of that, God exploded my business, because when it shut down, I would just go live in my corner of my room with Tarte concealer and heavy lipstick at night. And I would go, that's a lie, that's a lie, and that's a lie, because I'm about justice. Whether you like my modality or not really interested. But I will tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. And
Mm.
then, I just started growing this community of people that were like, thank you for helping us. Thank you for helping us. And I'm recognized almost wherever I go, in airports or anywhere. And Nazareth, it's great when we do comedy, but that God lets us do ministry. I remember Ken Davis, Ken told me years ago, he said, comics, dime a dozen. But when you have a story that changes somebody's life, that's everything. And
Yes.
this great gift of comedy makes us more alike than different. And
Right.
so people are like, something happens when you get into the meeting. And obviously I have parents that have different types of families now. And I said, well, I'm prayed up, I'm prepared, and I'm German Irish. It's quite a combo pack. It's the anointing, right? Sometimes it's
Right.
the annoying, but hopefully it's the anointing, because I'm walking in the thing God called me to do. And I could do it for another 200 years, because I love that I get to do this. What an honor to walk along families in their greatest pain. What an honor. And then
That is,
to do what's good for kids. And I love teachers. I love everything about it. Do I get pushback? That's the gig, right? Luke 17:1 says it's impossible that offenses should not come. It is possible that you don't pick it up. So that root word offense is where the Greek word is scandalon, which is where we get the word scandal, right?
uh-huh.
And a scandalon is that little piece of metal in an animal trap that holds the food. Did you know that? And
No.
a, and if you don't take the scandalon, the trap won't fall. Right? So it's impossible that offenses should not come. So if you're doing something for a living, for a vocation, for a calling, and everybody likes you, that's a you issue. That's an issue. You're not doing what God called you to do. If you're doing what God called you to do, there's going to be whiners. But the whiners, or the people that say that I'm an angel, or the other word, it doesn't really matter. What matters is what am I doing that God called me to do? And I'm
Mm.
doing it with excellence. And what a great time that we have to grow our businesses online with social media and connect with people. This little thing, um, it makes us connected to the whole world, but we couldn't be more disconnected. So I go live on TikTok for an hour every Monday, question, answer. And I'm just serving people. And
Mm,
that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be serving people. And out of that, God will show you a vocation because he wants his people to be paid, right? You can't be
right.
this natural beauty for free.
Of course
We
not.
need we need to be an
I mean,
income.
look at
And
that.
so yeah. And so, it's just a great way, whatever you're doing, just go live, be transparent and talk to people. Tell them whatever it is that you want to talk about, grow a community. We are dying. It says in Deuteronomy 30:19, but that I lay before you every day blessings and curses, life and death. Choose life so that you and your children don't die. And it's not like literal death, it's death of dreams, death of possibilities, death of hope. And so, this way to reconnect on social media and find your tribe is amazing. That we have people like I have people in Ireland. I pulled my analytics the other day, and my second group of people are from Ireland. I'm like, is that near Dallas? Do I go to Love Field? I don't even know where that is. But what a gift from God that we get to connect with people all over the world.
Right, right,
Yeah.
and that's amazing. So what is your not secret, like your formula? Okay, so
Yeah.
every week you go on and you
Yeah.
help
So
people, you share what you know and that can help people.
yeah. So
And
here's and I think you have the same formula, right? You probably have your podcast every week at the same time, right?
yes,
So if you're going to be the Bob Newhart show, they've got to know that at Tuesdays at 7 o'clock, I can turn it on. So
right,
make a consistent pattern of when you're going to go live, when you're going to teach, train, and reign, right?
right,
Well, I go live every Monday night at 8 p.m. Central, whether I am in Nashville, at my home, wherever I do that. And
right,
then out of that, I've built digital products, live classes, in person masterminds, because the longer you talk to people, they don't really care about what you have to say. They want you to know about their pain points. And when you connect with them in the questions, you can see their pain points, right? And that's the area that you have to serve. And so we have, out of that, special education boss was started for, I wanted families to get the truth. And over 3/4 of the people that we serve are school-based members, because the schools don't even train their own staff. And
mm,
so I've grown that, but it's a commitment. It's a commitment. It's a commitment. So if you want to do the latte and learn, the lunch and learn, or I can't believe this happened and it's Friday, right? Just and make your own show. Yeah. Lipstick and learn, whatever it's kind of funny. People will be like, what's that lipstick? I'm like, it's L'Oreal number 108. Number
right.
one, it's in the link tree. All right.
108 L'Oreal. Okay,
It'll look really good for you, Nazareth.
yeah,
Yeah. And so people just want to be with people. That's how God made us. He made us a family, right? And
right.
so it's just such an amazing way to grow businesses. I mean, people can stay at home. The brick and mortar business has kind of gone away, right? And
Right.
so,
So do you pay to get more followers or to more
no,
views for your no? So
no.
how you just grow it by serving people and people sharing with other people and bringing other
So
people
I put out 52 pieces of content across 7 platforms every day.
every day. Wait.
Yeah.
52
Yeah. So
pieces of
it didn't start
content.
out that way. It didn't start out that way. It just started out during the pandemic. I went live every night, Monday through Friday at
Which I
9.
did the same thing. I went 7 days
Yeah,
for
you were like,
2 years
hello.
and
Yeah,
built a
yeah,
community. But then once everybody started going out, it stopped because
yeah,
people went back to their lives.
yeah.
But you're
And so
giving something different. You're giving something that's helping people in that, specific
yeah, so
thing.
then I started doing classes. I learned, people say, "What's your background?" I'm like, "What are your credentials?" I'm like, "Results." I'm like, "I'm a college dropout, but I'm not a quitter. I have dropped out of a lot of colleges, and so, but I do have a Sam's card." And so that just shows you that God can use anybody. And then I started doing online classes. So I would do a webinar. We're having a webinar on the 7th. Everybody log on. 300 people log on. We get their emails. We follow up with them, put them in our email base. What's the next training you would like? What's the next training you would like? And then we took those trainings and we make them digital products. And we do live 2-day trainings. We do a very intensive mastermind. We're having a 2-day in Orlando, because people need to be trained, whatever it is that they do. I mean, that was one of the things I was sad about CCA. It went away, but I don't know if we were training each other, we were just gathering. But anyway, that's a conversation
Yeah,
for
we
today.
we used to. We used to
We
do a
used to,
lot of
yeah.
we used to
And
train a
so
lot.
everybody needs training. And so I have lots of people on. I will have webinars and I'll have, this is a lady that makes shirts that don't irritate kids that have sensory things. This is somebody who's really good at building websites. I'm having a lady on next week. She's in Orange County. She has a daughter that has cerebral palsy. And I just connected with her. I said, can you do a Zoom with me? Just like you did me. So that,
Mm,
we can spotlight other people, because the biggest death of people is this isolation. And when
right.
you have a child with a disability, it's an 88% chance that you'll get divorced. It is
That's
the
why,
most
yes, that's why I
isolating,
asked you, are you still married to your husband? Because I heard that this is one of the biggest reasons for
yeah.
divorce is having a child with
Which is the
special.
last thing that you need to do, is to get divorced. But I found out that he was, talking to girls in other countries. I was like, you got to go. I'm not doing your laundry, and you talk to girls in other countries. And
Now, is
so,
that the father of your
yeah,
son?
yeah.
But now you're married to a worship leader?
Oh, no, no, no. I'm married to a guy that owns a beauty supply. I was
Oh,
thought a little bit smarter. Yeah.
oh, it's about, yeah.
So I've been
L'Oreal 108, does he say you get those for free, don't you?
a man with a back comb and some hairspray. I was like, I'm in
Hey.
love. Yeah. Yeah. And so we've been married 18 years. And I mean, God is so good. He doesn't waste any of that. I mean, I'm sure that I was at least 50% of the divorce. I'm a lot. And, but when James got healed, I've never had my mouth shut for any reason. And I couldn't stop telling people about this amazing miracle that had happened. I remember one time I was on the phone with somebody from Odessa, and he walked by and he goes, "Shut up. People are sick of hearing that story."
Huh.
Well, I'm still going to tell it. I'm
Yeah.
still going to go tell it on a mountain. And
Yeah.
he was embarrassed about it. He was embarrassed about the story. He was embarrassed about the whole thing. And so I released him back into the wild. But ladies, don't worry. Another woman who likes projects has already picked him up. So anyway,
Oh, I was concerned. Is he
yeah,
okay?
nope. Somebody scooped him up. So, here's what I know. I don't know, when God calls you to do something, it leans you out, right? And as my pastor used to say, I don't care who it puts me with or it takes me from, I'm going to go on with God. And so I'm
Mm,
going to do what God called me to do. And if people like it, that used to matter so much to me as a comedian. If people came up and said you were great, and it's fine. If I did my job and I did it with excellence, then I did my job, right? You know
mm.
this. You might have a huge room and it's dead, and you might have a tiny room and it's hot. And that's the nature of comedy. But if we're doing what God's called us to do, it's the best. And just the fact that I can walk alongside people is such an honor.
That is awesome. That's awesome. Who's your encourager? Who encourages you?
So I am blessed with so many people. I have a very small circle, um, but I'm a very close connection with the people that were in the deliverance ministry.
Mm,
Vicki Simmons was my spiritual partner forever as we walked this out. And I just have a few people in my life that I'll call and I'm like, am I messing up? Yeah. I think it's so important that we keep that, right? That we don't, oh, look at me, I'm out here crushing it. But that we have people that we can go to that really, iron sharpens iron, and
mm,
that people will tell you, you need to make adjustments, right? About 2 years ago, there was this, I was on Daystar, I was on TBN, I was on, when my book came out, and somebody had made a collage with me on social media and said I was an exorcist, and I make all my families buy this book, and I take them all through. And it was just so nasty. And I thought I wasn't going to make it. And all these people that I'd been training left, and they said they were disgusted with me.
mm,
And my focus is God. And, I don't log into a special ed meeting or a due process or a mediation and share my spiritual story. But if anybody asks, what happened, I'm like, we took him through behavioral intervention, spiritual intervention, emotional intervention, and physical intervention. And God completely restored him, and he's completely healed. And so I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed of the goodness of God.
Now, when you're so involved and busy with the IEP and that's yeah. And then you have to do a comedy show. And how do you prepare? How do you write? Do you sit and write for comedy, by itself. Like this is a comedy bit that I'm working on and I'm gonna try.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know how you do comedy, but so I am never without my moleskin.
Uh
Do you
huh.
carry a moleskin?
I have it on my phone.
Yeah, I'm an old person. We use paper at Nazareth. We use paper. And
Mm.
so people are always so funny. So, I just always write it down. I just did a training last week in Las Vegas for a direct sales company. We're never running low on comedy. And in my mind, I see kids, church, makeup, pantyhose, car. And for me, it's a whole bit. Where some
Mm.
comedians like Michael Jr., who's ridiculously brilliant. His comedy is different, but my comedy is all literally what happened in front of me at the
Right.
Waffle House. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome.
So I can do
That's
an hour of stand up easy.
good. So now, what do you call it? If people want help with their like social media, what? How can they get a hold of you, and what are they?
Yeah, you can
What?
just, so my email is Karen at specialeducationboss.com. Karen at
Uh-huh.
specialeducationboss.com.
Okay.
And my
And what?
website is specialeducationboss.com. So any of that, you can reach out. I have an agent, I have a manager.
Okay, specialeducationboss.com.
Yeah,
So
don't
Karen
cross
at
the boss. Yeah,
what?
don't cross the boss.
Don't cross the boss. Okay, here we go. Uh, so so you have a manager and agent that have to do with that, with what you do as
Yeah, so
speaking.
my manager does all my website and my booking, and not my website, my digital products, all for special education. I have an agent that does all my speaking and comedy booking.
Really, a comedy booking. They do
Yeah.
that. Oh, which one is that?
So Willeen Dunn, she is in WCD Speakers. She's in Dallas. She loves me. She is
That's good.
enamored with me. She said I'm the best in the world, or
Of
maybe I
course,
said that, but I feel like she said that.
she said it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome. So you do more speaking on the education than you do on stand up comedy.
Yeah, so I would love to do a lot more stand-up comedy. I mean, they're two different things. So when people bring me in, you get both, right? I just did a big
Right,
event in Utah. I did an event last Tuesday, and so now I do a lot of events like this. I do training. So you're
right.
you're getting the comedy whether you I don't have know a lot
Right,
of
right, and it
comedy.
was very funny actually. In the entire event, I was laughing, and I was like, "I'm trying to find a good question." Now,
Yeah.
how can people get your book?
Yeah, so it's on Amazon still. So Defying Autism, Karen Mayer Cunningham. I had to put both husbands on there because I was already famous. I got the second one.
This is
Yeah,
awesome. So,
yeah,
so if people want to book you to come and speak at their conference, at their event, at
yeah,
their convention, they can go to Karen at specialeducationboss.com.
yeah.
Go to your you're on TikTok if you guys want to learn more
Yeah,
about
I'm on all the platforms at specialeducationboss.com. So
her.
Facebook, the Gram, the Linked, the YouTube, everything is Special Education Boss.
Good. And when do you have time to put it on? All you have people that do that for you.
So I now use an amazing virtual assistant in the Philippines, Frances. And so she takes my content and we have a really good delivery model. You would be so good at this, where we have a moderator and I have my little phone on my Joby. I hope you use a Joby. And we put it up there and instead of me going, the next question. So my moderators are in there putting my website. And then we're just doing question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. And then that stays in TikTok for 90 days. So she goes in and grabs it. I don't know how she grabs it. I don't even know how to put something in the chat. God is my
Yeah.
witness.
You could grab
Um,
it. I know.
and she chops it up and then she puts graphics and she puts it on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's a lot of plethora of knowledge and wisdom and all that. Just like
It's a
you
lot of
shot
something.
it, you shot it at me. I was like,
I'm like
"Whoa,
a
this is
seven
good."
layer dip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah.
taking the time. I know you're in Nashville right now in a hotel room waiting, should be sleeping, ready for tomorrow's convention, conference, wherever you're
Yeah.
speaking. And so I appreciate you taking the time to be with me,
Yeah.
and
Well, thank you
hopefully,
for having me on. I've always loved you and loved your work. I think that there's so many comedians that are gifted, but a comedian that's clean and funny is just what a blessing you are to the body. So thank you for what you do.
well, thank you so much for what you do. Hang on, let me see. Well, thank you for your time. And people, thank you so much for watching. Please, please, if you know someone who has a child or they, special needs, you need to go. Number one, before you even care about subscribing to our thing or sharing our podcast, you need to go to Karen's, social media and be able to listen and watch to what she does, because that's going to be very helpful to you. You can subscribe. We'd love it if you can subscribe. We'd love it if you can share this with your friends. But it's not about money. We don't make any money. We don't advertise. We don't do anything for this. We just want to be able to bless you. And last week, I had a firefighter on the podcast. So if you're concerned about fires in your home, how to protect your home, you can do that. Before that, I had a chef that teaches you how to cook a Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner or any nice dinner. So we're always trying to help you guys with the podcast. I know it's called Laughter for All, and I'll tell you what, it was funny tonight. It was funny. Karen was funny every, you know what? Seven jokes a minute, man, and you can tell. I know the comedians were watching was like, okay, that was funny, quick. So anyway, go watch Karen's Dry Bar Comedy. It's on Dry Bar Comedy Angel Studios, and go watch the whole special. So love you guys. Thank you for watching, and I won't see you next week because I'm going to be in Santa Barbara. But the week after, I have a comedian who lost his house in the fire completely in Altadena. Completely lost his house. I'm going to see, how do you live? What do you do when you lose everything in a fire? So we'll see that in a couple of weeks. Thank you guys. Love you and have a great night. All right.